Hello. Hello. Okay. My name's Wendy. I'm a good friend of Chrissy. She told me that you were wanting a reading about yourself and a guy called Peter, I think he's called, is he? But I'm not quite sure whether Chrissy actually told me what your name was, so I've just been back over the messages I had with Chrissy and I couldn't see it straight off, so you'll have to forgive me. But it's fine. It doesn't make any difference to the reading or not whether I know your name. So this video, hopefully it'll be absolutely fine in terms of the visual side of things. This is a new phone, so I've had to reset all of my video settings on the app that I use, but I haven't really had time to test it out. So hopefully it'll be fine. The audio, even if it's just you get the audio should be fine. I'm not going to know myself until I upload the video to YouTube and then send you the link. So we're both sort of like in a bit of a strange place in terms of whether the video is going to be kind of, watchable in like in a full frame format. You might just have to tilt or move your phone, so you can actually watch it in landscape. But hopefully, fingers crossed, it'll be fine. So I know it looks like we've got a lot of cards on the table, but this pile here just gives me a little bit of information about how you feel about the situation and how you feel about the person in question. And this is the same for them. So this is your side and that's their side. And then this is your intentions and this is your actions, and it's the same over here. What I usually say to people is, in terms of intentions, an intention is something, it's something we intend to do, but we might not follow through. So the actions are usually more important than the intention, but the intention gives me an idea of where somebody's, where their feelings are about a situation, and like I say, intentions can be like I intend to go to the gym. You might wake up the next day and go, oh, yeah, I intended to, but I can't be bothered. So, but the intention's still there. So like I say, it just gives me an indicator of where someone's at, because you could have somebody that's telling you that their intention is possibly to develop a relationship, when their intention is actually to leave by the back door. So, I can get a sense of, where people are at in that regard. So just give me a moment to sort of settle myself, because I've got up this morning, I'm at work later, and I thought I was just going to jump into it, and then I remembered about the phone settings, and and time just flies, doesn't it, when you're faffing about. So I've sort of got myself in a little bit of a fluster. So give me a moment just to settle my energy. Make sure we're recording. Yes. Okay. So when I'm getting ready to do a reading, so that's just basically when I'm sort of tuning in, I'll sit down and I'll shuffle the cards. I'll think about the people in question, and then I just wait and see what I felt, and feelings I had and impressions that I got while I'm just in that process. And for this, for your reading, now whether it was specific to you or the situation, I don't know. I had a sense of waiting. So where I'll basically tell you. So basically, I was tuning in, getting ready to shuffle the cards. This was before I'd even shuffled the cards. I was getting ready to shuffle the cards, and I just felt as if like I needed to take longer. And like, even though I was thinking I need to move on in terms of like, yeah, I'm ready to shuffle the cards and move forward, I was kind of like, I felt as though I had to wait. I was kind of like I didn't feel like particularly stuck or frustrated about it, but I just felt as though I needed more time. So I was just sat here, and in my mind I'm thinking I need to move on, but in my physicality I was kind of like a few more minutes, or a few more moments. So I was aware of that, and then I could see what looked like those Russian dolls. Like, you get the nest of Russian dolls, don't you, where you've got like the big one and then all of the smaller ones sit inside. Well, it wasn't that I saw all of them. I just had this sense of putting them together. Like there was like a few that were like together inside. And at the time when I thought about it last night, I wasn't sure whether it was kind of like about like when we stack them all and sort of like like merging them. I'm not sure whether it was that, or whether it was like more to say like there was more to it. Let me try and explain myself. Layers. I think that's what I want to say. Like, there was layers, layers. Possibly, when I thought about it yesterday, I felt like it was more about a merging of, the energies in terms of like your physical, your subtle, your etheric, that kind of thing. But not necessarily, it might not mean that. It could be, like I say, layers. Like, whether it's layers of personality, you'll just have to decide which one makes more sense, if any of that makes sense at all. So yeah, I got that feeling. Oh yeah, also as well, while I was sort of sitting, like, I felt like I needed to sort of like really sniff the air, like sort of like my senses, like get a sense of like my surroundings in some regards, because at the same time I was aware that my ears were listening as well. So like, I felt like I wanted to get a good sense of like the air, like smell the air. But then as well, I was even though I had my eyes shut, my eyes shut, my ears were listening. Excuse me, I'm gonna sneeze. No, I'm not. Yes, I am. Excuse me. So I felt as though it was like kind of like fine tuning my senses, but the more physical, like earthly senses, like this, sometimes where I feel like when I'm talking to people, it's more like about getting in touch with the spiritual sort of senses, but this isn't. This is more like becoming more aware of your physical senses. So if I wanted to try and put it in words, I feel as though it's more like being more aware and in tune with what's actually going on in our physical kind of what's going on around us, basically being more alert and aware of what's going on around us, but like obviously, like where an animal would be more aware of like smells and scents, you know what I mean? Like, so like I'll just use as an example, a wolf for instance, would be aware of the surroundings because of the smell and the what they can hear, all of that. I'll just leave it at that. So that's kind of like where I got there. Now, obviously, you've asked me a question that is specific to you and the relationship with this person and whether, there is a future or, if there's any chance that things will get moving, the ball will get rolling. When I pulled the cards, like I say, this is your side, this is their side. This, to me, looks like somebody who is, I'll use the word keen, actually. Whereas your side, I feel as though there's a lot more going on. And I don't know whether it's because of you, in terms of like the way that you process your thoughts and your feelings, or whether there's a bigger situation going on in terms of that you aren't possibly fully in sort of like in control or in charge of whatever's going on your side. And I say that because you've got some big cards in terms of major arcanas, right? And with the major arcana cards, they're kind of like big type situations that we might not necessarily have full control over. Whereas on this side, actually, let me see. He's got one major arcana over here, that's it. The rest are, no, he's got two, but it's fine. These are just kind of like his main cards, which are the big cards underneath, are just the everyday cards, the what we call the everyday cards, the minor arcana. Whereas with you, you've got 2, 3, you've got 5 major arcana, which, it just kind of can show sometimes when we have I don't want to say like lessons to learn, like we've done something wrong. I don't mean it like that. But what I mean is like when events, we've had events, and we for whatever reason we've had those events, or we're going through certain events, that there's something like, there's a deeper kind of like story, experience, something to sort of learn from it. But then also as well, sometimes, like, you've got the Hanged Man a couple of times here as well. The Hanged Man can also, it's like that kind of like where we have to, it's like for like things outside beyond our control, then where we are then unable to move forward. You know what I mean? Even if we might want to move forward, possibly can't move forward. But also with the Hanged Man, it can be about illumination, self-illumination, and a time where in the past we might have just sort of like been less sort of self-aware. We could, these can show times where we move into more self-awareness, but I will look at those. So like I say, I noticed that you had more major arcana, which it's like, you know, these are big events, big emotions, possibly things that we don't necessarily have like control. There's like something working in the background of them situations, whereas this guy, you know, pretty much is more possibly focused on the sort of the mundane, the everyday, you know, that kind of thing, where yours is like themes, themes of possibly illusion, themes of fate, themes of control, themes of you know, like I said, self-illumination, themes of, you know, there's themes. There's no themes there, there's themes over this side. And also what's interesting is that when I was shuffling your cards and I was thinking about, like, obviously I'm aware that the relationship in terms of friendship's been long-standing, but wondering how long, you know, possibly emotions and interest had been sort of rumbling for. And I wondered if the Page of Cups would come out. And the Page of Cups has come out 3 times. So you've got this page here, you've got it in the reverse, then you've also got it in the upright twice. Now, the reason why I'm talking about pages is because pages are usually the beginnings of things. Pages are usually the very sort of like early kind of like development of feelings, you know, the more of like the cards of like curiosity. When we get into the Queens and the Kings, that's when, like, you know, things have developed more. So in terms of like emotions, you know, it could be that there's an intrigue, there's an interest, but possibly at times the interest's been there, then the interest's not been there, and then the interest's been there, but it's always been possibly in its how can I put it? Not in its developed sort of like stage with the pages. And you've got, like I say, you've got 3 pages of cups. You've got the Page of Swords. Like, I'm looking for 2, like, you know, like I'm not seeing establishment, you know, in terms of like effect. Like, obviously the potentially is affection or there is interest, but I'm not seeing like established feeling like we might see from the 2 of Cups, or, you know, even like, well, the Ace of Cups isn't really established feeling, that's a beginning, but then the 2 is usually something that's established. 6, no 6, got the 10 over there. I'm just trying to sort of like work through what's here for myself, basically. I'm just thinking out loud. So what I'll do is I'll just get on with the reading. So I'm not going to go through everything that's here on the table because I'll be here forever. So what I'll do is I'm just going to sort of like, we'll do a whistle stop through them, just very roughly. And then what I'll do is I'll kind of do a sum up, okay? But like I was saying, initially, when I got the message, I was thinking, oh, is there a plot twist here? You know, where maybe you're in love with this guy, and he's not in love, or, you know, or you know, you're wanting to sort of proceed with this, and he doesn't, type thing. You know what I mean? Like, I think the message that I got from Chrissy was that he's hesitant. Okay, now I can see why he would be hesitant, because we've got the 7 of Wands and the 10 of Wands here, right? And we've got the 2 of Swords and we've got the Emperor there. So I can see there is hesitation there. But saying that, it doesn't mean that he doesn't have feelings for you, or that he doesn't want to move forward with a potential relationship with you, but he does have his reservations to do that. Okay, so I'll start with you. So what I generally do is I'll pull a card just to give me a flavour of the personality of the person or the people that I'm reading for, and I'll usually just keep that to myself, but we'll just talk a little bit about that. So the King of Swords, if we were looking at the King of Swords in its upright position, which is his strongest position, that would show somebody who is very sharp, you know, can be strategic, is really good at planning things, you know, is very kind of like set in mind, but you've got it in the reverse. So in the reverse, that can be obviously the reverse of what I've just said. So the King of Wands in the reverse can be somebody who potentially, you know, doesn't possibly plan things very well, or, you know, just finds themselves in situations where, you know, they're not possibly that clear on situations. Now, that for me, given the two sides of this table, like, I looked at this and I thought, I don't understand what the problem is, because really, if I was spending time with this person, I would hope that I would be able to pick up on the nuances that this person actually liked me. Do you know what I mean? Because that's what I'm kind of seeing over here. Like I said, I'm seeing someone that's interested, but they do have the reservations. They do have reservations, but they are interested. So when you're coming for this reading, I don't know whether you're just totally clueless as to whether you feel as though they actually have the same feelings or thoughts or intentions or warmness for you that you have for them. Or, like I said, you're aware of the fact that he actually does have feelings for you and he does like you, but he also has reservations. I'm not quite sure. So I think, given what I can see on this side, right, I don't feel as though I need to sort of pick through this on this side. I don't feel like I need to pick through it. But if I was going to pick through, I would want to pick through this side, because this side seems like there's a lot more going on. And with that King of Swords in the reverse, I feel as though, is it like, are you possibly not connecting dots, or is there some sort of like a possible faculty within yourself that is causing, instead of you being able to sort of just come together like this, that there's kind of like possibly some sort of like the connection sort of like it's not smooth, if that makes sense. But like I was saying though, in terms of what's going on your side, I'll tell you what, I'm just going to put these behind here like this. Because you've got these kind of like these big cards. I'm going to have to keep jumping up to check on the video recording, because I'd be gutted if I lost any of your reading, because I don't think I'll be able to sort of like retrace my steps. So I'll try and do it as quickly as I can. We're still recording, yeah. You know, like when I'm talking about the King of Swords, is there some event possibly that is created within your persona, potentially a circumstance of self, of personality. Like I'm trying to say this in like the nicest way possible. Do you know what I mean? But is it possible that something that potentially has happened? It might not be. You know, we're all different. we are all different and we all have different aspects of our personas, you know what I mean? Some people, you know, have it together in terms of like, you know, their ambition, you know, like their not ambition, their work, you know what I mean? Some people have things together in terms of work. Some people have things together in terms of like relationships. Some people have things in terms like together in other ways. But I don't think that we all necessarily are right, you know, like fully clued up and full of clarity in every sort of like area of our lives. Like I'll just use this as an example. I used to have a friend when I was younger. She was called Cheryl, and she was very, very, very clever. Like in terms of like academically, she was really, really clever. But like when my mum would talk to her, like I don't know, she just started, my mum got to a point where she used to call her Dorsey, but it was like a loving nickname. You know what I mean? Because she used to say, like, I'd talk to her and half the time she'd just be like, you know what I mean? Like as if like, you know, you got the one impression from her, but when you put her in a, you know, at school in an exam or wherever, boom, 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 you know, she was very intelligent. So like what I'm saying is, you know, in terms of like there are different areas of our lives where we can sort of like be a bit, possibly we're not, you know, we're not as aware, or we're not as acutely, you know, tuned in. All right, that's all I'm going to say, but that's what I want to say on that. Now, in terms of like, I asked how you felt about the situation, and you've got the moon there, and the moon is it's a doozy of a card, because the moon is usually the card of things that are hidden, illusions, possible, you know, potentially feeling like there could be sort of like danger. You know, it's kind of like the moon is the card of also as well possibly triggers, you know, things that can be triggering. The problem with the moon is that if we are kind of like, if our feelings or thoughts about a situation are kind of covered by the moon, then that gives me the impression that we're not 100% fully cognizant, aware, or even sort of like emotionally balanced about the situation. And the moon, like I said, like when I try and explain the moon to people, it can be things that have, it can be because of things that have happened to us in the past. We can be triggered by things that we're not even aware of. It's a card of the subconscious. It's a really, really interesting card in that it's also like trying to find a needle in a haystack in terms of trying to, you know, bring awareness and light to a situation, because there's lots of things that are potentially going on under the surface that can potentially stop us from being able to see a situation for what it actually really is, because we've got all of these other things going on in the background that are stopping us from being able to see or feel clearly about a situation. Now, we've got the Page of Wands in the reverse here with this card, and the Page of Wands usually talks about when we're not able to actually fully, you know, like communicate. It can be where there's actually communication issues, communication problems, and with that moon card there, that it kind of makes sense to me, but also shows me like there's a deeper problem in terms of like the way that you think, and you're not just thinking about this in a very straight kind of way. There's lots of things going on under the surface about this situation. Now, I don't know whether it's because of this situation or something that's happened that's impacting or making it hard to be able to sort of like the Page of Wands in the upright talks about, you know, being able to chat about things, being able to communicate. But the Page of Wands in the reverse can also show that there's actually like some kind of issue in terms of being able to fully express, talk about things. So in terms of the way that you're feeling, like without me getting, trying to kind of like figure out exactly what the issue is, but it's showing me that there's a major sort of possible blockage in terms of either an ability to sort of like talk about something, express something, in a, I don't want to say in a mature fashion, but like I said, the Page of Wands in reverse definitely talks about some kind of like potentially some kind of problem in terms of being able to communicate something. So for you, how you feel about this situation, I don't, like I said, I don't know whether that moon and that Page of Wands are there specifically because of something that's going on in this relationship or this situation, or because the moon's there, and because it can talk about, like when we go back through life, it can go back, it can even go back to childhood, that there is something potentially that's kind of like in the way of being able to kind of like move, express, talk, without things being emotional or an element of illusion, or like I say, like when you think about the moon and you think about the light of the moon and you think about the sun and you think about the light of the sun as that light, that's, there's clarity there, there's clarity, there's awareness. The moon, it's a hazy kind of like weird light, isn't it, where there's possibly phantoms and shadows, and you know what I mean. So that's how I try and explain. But because it's the moon card, like I don't want to get stuck on this, but because it's the moon card, like it can talk about layers. It can talk about things that have happened in the past. It can talk about emotions, things that happen that trigger us. Might not necessarily have nothing to do with the situation that we're in, but because things have happened in the past, that kind of like is it can affect the way we think and we feel or we process about a situation. So that's pretty deep on how you feel about the situation. But because, like I said, because the moon's there, in terms of like my ability to be able to sort of like get to the bottom of what we're talking, what potentially the issue is, I can't, because it is the moon. It's it's murky, it's hazy, it's it's not simple. So that's all I'll say. And then how you feel about him, like the Wheel of Fortune, we can look at it two ways. One, we can think of the Wheel of Fortune in terms of destiny. We'll just pick out some very, very simple words. Destiny, we're meant to be together, or I feel as though we're meant to be together, or we, possibly, the fates brought us together, whatever. But then, also as well, it can sort of have a sense of like, possibly feelings, this relationship, this person, is, would bring, better fortune into my life. We don't have to be talking about money. We can just be talking about in terms of like, just making life seem better. But then you've got the Hanged Man on top of that. And this is why I was saying, I'm wondering if you're actually dealing with themes and circumstances that have also sort of kind of been beyond your control in some regards. Because with the Wheel of Fortune, that can talk about, like obviously like the fates, where we haven't actually had full control over our circumstances. And then you've got the Hanged Man there as well. And like I said, in a very mundane reading, we could look at that and we could say, oh, well, this can talk about delays. This can talk about, not being able to move forward, for practical reasons. But then we can also look at it in terms of like, being kind of delayed in a way that's like, it's not of our choosing or our making, but just because circumstances have kind of created you know, a situation or an environment or whatever that has actually stopped us from actually being able to move forward or attain something that we want. So you've got that as well. But then also as well, the Hangman as well. it's a big card. The Hangman can talk about, again, like I was saying, about self-enlightenment. It can talk about a time where, you know, we actually begin to sort of like, there's like a revealing of self to self, you know, in some regards. So like for me, you know, this is quite intense. You know, there's an intenseness here. There's an intenseness. Now, when I'm looking over at this side, in terms of like, because I asked about his personality, I asked about his thoughts on this situation, I asked about how he feels about you. You know, we've got, okay, so the Empress is the card that he got for his personality, right? So the Empress is somebody that possibly is quite friendly, somebody who is possibly even quite creative, somebody who is possibly quite nurturing. Do you know what I mean? You've got those elements with the Empress. So when I'm looking at your King of Swords for your personality, you know, I'm looking at the Empress for his personality. You know, I can see like there's quite a difference in terms of your personalities. There's also the aspect with the Empress as well that, like, you know, it can be that we like beautiful things. We like to look at beautiful things. We like to have beautiful things around us. You know what I mean? So there's that aspect as well. But generally, if I'm looking at the Empress in terms of personality, I would say, yeah, somebody who is not nurturing in the same way as a Queen of Cups kind of way, but definitely, you know, somebody who is friendly, somebody who, you know, is very, you know, the Empress can be quite group oriented as well. So there'll be like, you know, somebody will pull you into their social circle type thing, you know. There's that aspect as well. Now, in terms of how he feels about the situation, let me just check I'm still recording. Yes. In terms of how he feels about the situation, it's on one side, this is somebody who feels as though they need to just really think about the you know, it's kind of like a card of option, right? But no, 2 of Wands is probably more option. The Swords are more about decisions, making decisions. But on the other side of things, it can also show a good partnership as well, right? So he might think we have a good relationship, or we have a good partnership. You know, we have you know, there is something that works here, yeah. But at the same time, this need to possibly, you know, he might feel as though it's a difficult decision to make. That's probably what I want to say. It's a difficult decision to make. It's a difficult decision for him to make. And it's a decision that he needs to make that needs to be taken time to be made. That's pretty much all I can think about when I see that card for this situation. The Emperor in reverse as the clarifier. Now, this can talk about, so I'll just use this as an example. This has nothing to do with your spread, but this is just as an example. Somebody that, see, the Emperor in the upright talks about somebody who is able to handle people. You know, like if we were talking from a sort of a business employer aspect of things, it's kind of like somebody who is able to get the best out of people, work with people, you know, be, you know, commanding. This is the reverse of that. So this can talk about weakness in leadership. Now I don't, like, obviously I'm talking about that in regard, like in the realm of work and employment and leadership. I'm just trying to figure what that potentially means in terms of the relationship. Is there an aspect here where somebody is unable to, not command, I wouldn't say command, but somebody isn't able to sort of like, you know, sort of like, I'm not going to say hold the reins of a situation, hold the reins, I suppose, in some ways, keep control, you know, keep things moving, in the, I won't say keep things moving, that was probably